day to you all. This is Joylyn M. Ross, your literary consultant, your literary concierge, your publishing coach, one of the main course instructors at the annual Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference held every September in the still fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I've also been coined the literary know-it-all because I want right. So what I want to do today is I want to share with you one of the 5 aspects of the publishing process. And it just happens to be one of the highest ticketed items, okay? One of the highest ticketed items in the publishing process, outside of perhaps using a ghostwriter, because as you know, you do not have to be a writer to be the author of your own story. There are resources to help you get that story, that message out of you. Again, ghostwriters, book coaches, right behind companions. That's what we call our companions here at Path to Publishing, who take what you have and kind of go behind it and build it up and beef it up. A little bit more than comprehensive editing, but not quite ghostwriting. Okay, so ghostwriting can be a high ticketed item if that is how you should choose to tell your story. Again, I always hear people say, and people come to me all the time, I have the story, I have the tale, but I'm not a writer. You don't have to be a writer to tell your story, okay? That's why at the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference, we don't call it a writer's conference. It's not a writer's conference. We have CEOs there, we have business owners there. Yes, we have writers and authors there, but we have, for the most part, people there who want to tell a story. People there who have a message inside of them that they want to share with the world. So they want to learn the business of writing, and they also want to learn the process of publishing. Whether you self-publish, go the traditional route, POD, that is what the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference is for. It's Path to Publishing to help you determine which path to publication you want to choose and make sure that you do it in excellence. So for those of you who are just tuning in, let me show you my little setup here. This is my pop-up publishing school set. I do pop-up publishing school around the map. As a matter of fact, for February, I have about 4 pop-up sessions that I have to do, but I love it, you know. I love being one of the main course instructors at the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference, but that's not enough for me. I go through withdrawal when my pathfinders leave me, okay? So I've figured out a way to be able to do what I love all the time, not just once a year, which is teach. Now, I'm constantly teaching with my literary consulting. I'm always working with authors. I'm always working with individuals. I'm always working with groups. I'm always working at writers groups and things of that nature. So I am constantly teaching, but I mean on that platform where I get that energy. I'm around my colleagues, my fellow literary artists, my fellow literary entertainers, just sharing what I know. Because like I always say, I am not afraid to teach people everything I know. But in return, I expect them to teach me everything I don't. So what people learn when they come to my conferences, when they come to my pop-up publishing schools, is that we're all the student and the teacher. There's always more for us to learn. And regardless of where we are on our journey, not just our literary journeys, but our journey in life, there is something we can teach others. You may sitting there and you're saying, but I did everything wrong. You know, I published a book. I did everything wrong. I made so many mistakes. I wasted so much money. Me too. That's how I ended up being a literary educator. That's how I ended up being a publishing coach. I teach not just what to do, but what not to do. I've made enough mistakes and I've wasted enough money for all of us. So under my watch, I won't allow that to happen to you. No, ma'am, and no, sir. So I am going to teach today, again, editing. Like I just mentioned, editing is the largest ticketed item on the publishing process. You got to move around here. I'm in a room with the motion, the light. So if the lights pop off, it's, you know, we paid the bill. It's just their motion lights to save money, save energy. And I'm going to put this phone down, so it's going to stop wobbling here in a minute. But I wanted to grab my manual, my Bible, my literary Bible, which I'll get to in a minute. But the cost of printing. So if you would choose to do digital printing or offset printing based upon how many copies you choose to print. And I'm not going to go into printing today because I really want to focus on editing, okay? But whether, depending on whether you want to go POD, you want to do digital print runs, or you want to do an offset print run, I typically run a very long pre-order campaign. So I, have a nice set of pre-orders, that I need to print off. So I can typically get a really good price on printing offset because with offset, the more you print, it's like farmers and tomatoes. The more tomatoes you buy from the farmer, the cheaper it gets. Same way with offset printing. But didn't I just say I wasn't going to go into that? And I have notes right here. I have notes. I'm like, Joy, stay on track. You know how you get when you get to teaching, you want to teach them everything. That's what I love to do. That's like, woo, a gift and a curse. But I'm going to get to my notes here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch out. I'm going to set my phone here where it's nice and still. I'm nice and comfortable. Got my water, have my notes, and I have the Bible. And I'll tell you what this is in a minute. But first, editing. What is editing? Editing is the process of examining a text with the intention of improving the flow and the quality of your writing. It's not to change your writing. It is absolutely not designed to change the integrity of the message you are trying to get across. Again, editing is the process of an editor examining a text with the intention of improving the flow and the quality of your writing. I've actually heard writers and authors say they refuse out the gate to work with an editor. I don't want anyone changing my work. I don't want anyone changing my work. But yet we call our works our babies. They're our book babies, our book babies, our book babies. Well, what I want you to do is not think of an editor as child enforcement agency trying to take your baby away from you. Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't want you to think of an editor as the child enforcement agency trying to come away and take your book baby away from you. I want you to think as the editor, as the nanny, okay? The nanny who takes care of it and until it's ready to go out into the world and stand on its own. Yes, that's what an editor is. An editor is your book baby's nanny who's going to help you take care of it, get it right, get it prepared until it can stand on its own 2 feet and go out into this world alone. Yeah, that's what an editor is. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to teach from the curriculum that I teach from at the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference every year. And we call this our blueprint. Literary Blueprint, aka, can you guys see this? Literary Blueprint, aka Book Business Bible. Okay, this is our Book Business Bible. When you come to the conference, I teach from this. I am constantly updating this curriculum all year. So every year it's an updated curriculum. And I teach from this information. And as part of your conference registration, you actually get access to the digital slides. You get access to the digital slides of everything I teach from. So that's what makes our conference stand out as well. You're not there having to take every little note because you're afraid you're going to miss something and trying to write down website links and resources. No, you get that. So I need to make sure you're paying attention to me and anything I may be ad-libbing. Now that you could take notes on, but as far as everything you see on the screen, you don't need to be whipping your camera out and taking pictures of the slides and trying to write down everything that's on the slide before I go to the next slide. As part of the conference registration, you get the blueprint. You get your book Bible. You get digital access. There are individuals who prefer to purchase the hard copy as well. So this is the hard copy from last year's, and that's what I'm going to be teaching from today. We have a couple of these left. These are last year's, and these are the ones we're calling our oopsie files, because me being the manuscript and the curriculum hog that I am, I literally kept adding to this curriculum 2 days prior to the conference. Okay, now the conference coordinator was having a fit. He likes me to get this information to him 2 weeks prior to the conference so that he can make sure everything gets set up, get all the zip drives set up and all of that. So all the presenters have to have their curriculum to him 2 weeks out. That means I have to have this to my editor at least 4 weeks before the conference. So I didn't get it to the editor. I barely got it to Lamar, who anyone who's been to the conference knows the conference doesn't happen without Lamar, the conference coordinator. Oh, he's just amazing. So there were some oopsies. I'm calling them oopsies. And I'm all about excellence, okay? So we cut the price on these because of the oopsies to half. So typically you can get all 3 days of the curriculum for $197, but we have about 2 oopsies left and we're selling the oopsies for only $99. So if you want your book Bible, which is the curriculum that I teach from in all the main sessions at the conference, all 3 days, and I mean this baby covers everything. You can not only publish your own book in excellence, you can publish others. So at the conference, we tend to have independent presses. They're learning how to make sure they are taking every step necessary for the success of their authors' works, making sure they are putting those books out in every single platform that is going to allow those authors to be successful. Not just ebook, but print, audio, different formats and versions of print. Again, we have 8 formats listed in here. How you should be making money from your book, okay? The different formats to start with, from your limited edition, limited quantity, special edition, all the way down to Braille. Yes, you heard me. So this is the book Bible. It's all the slides, all the slides. So if you want one for half off, only $99, we only have 2 left. Drop in the comment section, I want one, and I'll make sure that I invoice you. But right now, let's get to what this video is about, what this instruction is about. I am coming from, like I said, the Path to Publishing Literary Blueprint, aka the Book Business Bible. And today I'll be coming out of Literary Educator Book 1, Chapter 2, Verse Editing. You guys know I'm all about laughing and learning. I mean, this business is serious enough. You know, we don't have to be so, serious when it comes to teaching and learning. And you guys know I'm not some stiff, serious businesswoman, but I am serious about my business. So let's get down to business. With editing, please do not skip out on this process. And I know there are editing programs that some individuals feel if they run their manuscripts through this program, their book is going to come out clean and polished. We have Grammarly, we have Draftin. I have over a dozen listed as a resource in this book Bible, okay? In this business book Bible that I share with authors, that I share with the attendees at the conference. But what I want you to know is these programs will increase your productivity and they will save you time and they will strengthen your writing, okay? But they do not, will not, never will they take the place of a real live professional editor, okay? Not someone who's good in English and not someone who's a teacher. Just because someone's a teacher does not make them a professional book editor, Okay, so again, I'm talking about professional editors. The grammar program, again, amazing. Grammarly, DraftIn, AutoCrit. There's so many, and again, they will help you strengthen your writing, and they will help you increase your writing productivity. They may even help you save a little bit of money when you go to work with that professional editor. Okay, because as professional editors, we all have our different costs. How some it's per word, some it's per page, some it's hourly, but everyone has their base cost. But what I know for sure is that that cost can go up if heavy editing is required. Okay, so if you as the writer, the author, do not take as much as time as possible to polish your manuscript, to really clean it up, on average, after you get that first draft done, you should be doing about 5 to 7 rewrites. 5 to 7 rewrites. We talk about beta readers in the book Bible. We talk about not just asking someone to be your beta reader, but making sure you give them the different tasks you want them to keep their eye on. You want them to give you feedback on and how to pick those beta readers. And what those beta readers should be giving you in return. It's totally different from a consumer review. And again, that's something else. I mean, this is the book business Bible. If you are in the book business, you need this Bible. Okay, so again, the grammar programs are wonderful, but please don't ever think they are going to take the place of a live professional editor. And remember, just because someone was good in English, and just because someone was a teacher, just because someone wrote a book, doesn't make them a professional editor. Okay, so do your due diligence with these editors, okay? And the first thing you want to know is the type of editor they are. I've seen it more times than I can count on social media. I'm in need of an editor. Can anybody refer me to an editor? Drop the names of an editor. If you're an editor, I need an editor. And people just start dropping names. And not once does the person specify the type of editor they need. Because what can happen here is that you can get the best content development editor that ever walked the literary universe. But your book is published full of grammatical errors, punctuation errors. But I spent thousands on a content development editor, and that's what the content development editor did. They developed your content, but they didn't copy edit, which is where the grammar and the spelling comes into place. So you have to know the type of editor that you need, the type of editing your project needs. Now, like I mentioned, at the conference, we have individuals there who are not there just to learn how to publish their own book, but they are publishers. So they want to know, okay, if I'm going to start a publishing company, what does this team of editors look like? So I leave no stone unturned. I leave no page unturned. I give you all, okay? Because you may start off just publishing your own books and then end up publishing other people's books. So I want to make sure you have this information. I'm not one to hold people's visions, dreams, goals, and success hostage. I want you to have it all. As grim as this may sound, I may die tomorrow. So you can't get this done, because Joylyn left me hanging, Joylyn dangled a carrot. No, I give you everything I know up to that day. Okay, so the type of editors, this is standard for the publishing house, okay? Standard for the traditional publishing. Acquisitions editor. I was the acquisitions editor for 10 years for Carl Weber's Urban Christian Imprint. So I acquired the manuscripts. I was that person that had the slush pile that you would send your submissions to, and myself and my team of readers. I don't even think we called them beta readers way back then. But my team, I'm sorry, this is slipping. I'm trying to. My team of beta readers. But we'd go through all of the pile and the process. And back then, what did we do? We had cold, warm, hot. Okay. And so if it was hot, I'm reading a hot. Warm, okay, when I have a moment, I'll read the warm. But that's how I operated as an acquisitions editor. So again, that acquisitions editor, that is that person who acquires the manuscripts for the publisher, okay? That's the person you submit to submit your manuscript to. Then we have the coordinating editor. The coordinating editor. The coordinating editor, once that manuscript is acquired, so if you're thinking about starting your own publishing company, you're going to want to make sure you have that coordinating editor. When I think of Path to Publishing, we have what we call a literary chauffeur. You're assigned a literary chauffeur that chauffeurs you along the entire process. We're like the AAA of the literary industry, so we meet you wherever you are on your literary journey, and then we chauffeur you to your final destination. So think of the coordinating editor as that person who chauffeurs, who logs the process of that manuscript through the entire editing process. To make sure that it doesn't miss a step, okay? Make sure it does not miss a step, that it doesn't go from developmental editing or straight to the typesetter and miss copy editing, okay? And that's happened before. I've known that to happen to authors. I'm a literary agent as well. I have clients who have book deals with Simon & Schuster, Kensington and Urban Books, to name a few. So this happened to one of my clients. It missed the copy editing process, and it was like, oh, shame on me too as the agent. But that's when I really started to pay attention. Fortunately, we got to go back and get it cleaned up, get the copy edit, but it was a real wake-up call. So the coordinating editor missed that, okay? And so did we. Developmental editing. They're going to focus on your plot, character, storyline. Again, more about the content that I spoke of a little bit ago. And then you have your copy editor, which I mentioned, grammar, spelling, and sometimes they will even do fact checking. I think it's very important as editors that we share the type of editing that we do. So if you're seeking an editor and you ask them, well, what type of editor are you? And they can't even answer that initial question, you might want to keep searching. You may want to keep searching because of, the editor should absolutely know what they're good at, what they're, when they're in their pocket. What they prefer. And even at Path to Publishing, with our team of editors, we call them editing companions, editor companions. I know which ones to give a manuscript to based upon not only the genre, but what that author's goals are with that manuscript. For example, when I worked for Urban Christian, I had several authors who worked with their own paid editors prior to submitting their manuscripts to me. Even though they knew we had a team of editors who were going to edit that manuscript, before they turned it into me, they had hired their own editors to work with, okay? And you want to make sure if your goal is to work with a traditional publisher, that you work with an editor who has worked on traditionally published manuscripts, okay? If you know that is your goal, to get your book a book deal, okay? To get it submitted to even agent who will then submit to the publishing companies. Work with an editor who has worked with traditionally published authors, who have worked on traditionally published manuscripts, because there is a different standard required. There just is. The majority of my books are published with traditional publishers. I'm a hybrid author, which means I've chosen multiple paths to publication because for me, I have different visions and goals for every project I put out there. And what works for one project may not work for the other. So with this project, this was great to go with a traditional publishing house out of New York. But for this one, self-publishing. That one, POD, print on demand. So what works for one publication may not work for all publications. And that's something that I like to teach the authors I work with. That's something I like teaching at the conference, is making sure you know your goals per project, okay? So again, you want to do your due diligence. You want to know what type of editor are you? What type of editor are you? And, I'm looking to get a traditionally published book. So have you ever edited traditionally published books? There's nothing wrong with an editor who has only edited self-published books. But if your goal is to work with a traditional publisher, there's a different standard of editing that's required by the publishing houses. That's just a fact. Am I saying that a self-published book can get away with more errors and be janky? No, that's not what I'm saying. But they just require a different level, a different standard of editing, of a writing style, okay? Moving on, comprehensive editing. I call those book doctors. It goes, some people use content development editor and comprehensive editor interchangeably, but for me and for Path to Publishing, our comprehensive editor is a book doctor. I mean, they just, scalpel please. They are just going in and they are operating on that book, okay? They are digging deep, 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 deep. And then, like I mentioned, fact checking. You will get some copy editors who will do fact checking. Some will not. Ask. That's where I was going with that. Ask. Do you do fact checking? Especially my Christian fiction authors who use scripture. Okay, you want to ask, do you fact check the scripture? And if that editor doesn't, it doesn't mean, you can't use that editor. It just means you may have to hire a fact checking editor, okay? Format editor. And when I say format editor, I don't mean a typesetter. Okay, I truly mean formatting, making sure that the manuscript that's being worked on is, industry standard, typically, double space, 1-inch margins all around, Times Roman, 12 font, because let me tell you this, when your manuscript does go to typesetting, it's taken from one program and it's put into an entirely different program. So if you've already got all of this funky formatting and everything going on, it's going to be that much worse for the typesetter to work with. And what can happen, trust me, I know, I am speaking from experience, you can lose things. Things can shift around. One of my books lost an entire paragraph. It lost periods at the end of the sentences. I mean, it was a disaster. So you want to make sure that your book is, even in your Word, even while working in your Word document, that it's formatted according to industry standard. You have globalization and translation editing. So if you're going to be using different languages, if your main character is bilingual, and can speak another language, and every now and again you want to, whoa, or, awe your readers by using that language, make sure you are translating it properly, okay? And sometimes that may mean hiring a globalization or translations editor. An integrity editor. More and more publishing houses are working with integrity editors, even integrity beta readers, to make sure the work you actually put out there isn't going to be offensive. Moons and moons ago, in my traditionally published contract, there was all this fine print where me as the author had to pretty much say that I wasn't going to put offensive content out or this, that, and the other. And it's hard to tell what's going to offend, people these days. It's just hard. And so that was always a little, sticky clause that, most of us still went ahead and signed. But I did work with authors who asked to have that removed because people can get offended by any little thing or any big thing. But I would say if you are writing, say you're African American and you're going to write about a Caucasian, or you're Caucasian and you're going to write about the Latino or Indian culture or whatever, that you have integrity readers, that you have individuals from those cultures. If you're going to write about homosexuals, or if you're a man, even going to write about a woman, or a woman writing about a man, remember, your own perception is your reality, but it may not be what it actually is to that particular group, sex, culture, religion. So you really want to make sure that you are telling your story with integrity. So again, have beta readers, have an integrity editor, people from those backgrounds who will say, oh, you know, if I were you, I would reword it this way. If I were you, I wouldn't say that at all, because in our culture, that is very offensive. So integrity editors, big deal now, guys. A line editor, the flow and the feeling, the ebb and flow, okay? So that's what your line editor is going to work on. And then you have your proof editor. The proof editor is going to work on the book after the typesetting process that I mentioned a little bit ago, okay? Typically, the proof editor and the author, they're their last eyes to see that book before it goes to the printer. When I'm working with my traditional publishers, I am simultaneously reading that final proof, hence proof editor, with the proof editor. And we're both noting all of our changes. We give them back to be input, and then it goes off to typesetting for that final print. Okay. What Path to Publishing does is we even have someone we call a fresh eyes editor. Okay. The fresh eyes editor is going to read it just for overall content, copy, fact checking, not fact checking. Our fresh eyes editor does not do fact checking, but we do have copy editors and we have fact checking editors. But that fresh eyes editor is that person who is an editor, a professional editor, but they've never laid eyes on this manuscript. They've never heard of it. They haven't read any reviews. So their mind's not going to tell them one thing. They don't have one expectation or the next. They're going to really find any holes that may have been left out. So I just went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, a dozen types of editors I just went through, okay? I just went through that from the literary blueprint. And so you can't just drop a link and say, I need an editor, when there's dozen. When there's a dozen different kinds of editors out there, you need to do your due diligence and know the type of editing you need, okay? And I'm going to just take a little water break really quick. You know, when you do your water breaks, you got to have your branded mugs, right? I know sometimes we just have those little plastic water bottles. But when you are an author, when you are a literary educator, when you are in business and you are doing these lives and you are sharing tips and information, make sure when you have to take a water break that you're at least putting your name in people's face, you're putting your brand. I know that has nothing to do with editing, but I told you guys, I get off track, but I make my way back. Okay, so we've talked about those dozens of editors. So I mentioned this is more so for the traditional publisher. For those of you who want to start your own publishing companies, or who already have your own publishing companies, you may be saying, ooh, wow, oh, missing one, missing that one. For the self-published editor, though, are we going to hire a dozen editors? No. We barely want to hire the one. I just told you it's the highest ticketed price item outside of perhaps a ghostwriter or printing your books, depending on how you decide to print your books. So what is the average self-published author going to use when it comes to editing? They're going to use the developmental content editor, okay? They're going to use the copy editor. And after typeset, they're going to use the proof editor or a fresh eyes editor, okay? With Path to Publishing, those are the 4 types of editing that we suggest our clients use. Content, even if it's your autobiography or biography, your memoir, whatever it is, I know my story. I don't need anybody to help me with the content. I know my story. This was my life. Please, 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 please have it content edited. Anywho, okay? Because you'd be surprised at the different contradictions, or, you know, with an autobiography, everything has to be in sequence. But then, of course, when you have your memoir, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a timeline. Your memoir is more so you're highlighting a part of your life. With the autobiography, it's more so your entire life. So there needs to be a sequence. And, you know, we want to do content. We want to make sure everything is in order. So whether it's fiction, nonfiction, children's books, content editing, please, and thank you. Definitely copy editing. Grammar and punctuation. Those are what I call the, okay, this is, path to publishing. We always say your book is the vehicle you put on the road for your literary journey. And when that reader gets a hold of that car, that book, they want a smooth ride. They don't want to be, bouncing around. You want to give them a smooth ride. And so there's nothing that makes for a more bumpier, uncomfortable ride than spelling errors here, the wrong punctuation there. So you absolutely want to have your copy editor. And again, I mentioned how when your book goes from that Word document or what have you into the design program for the typesetting, things can shift, things can get discombobulated, misplaced, things can drop off. You want to have a proof editor simultaneously reading that manuscript with you. So that's 3 editors, but some would prefer a Fresh Eyes editor because a Fresh Eyes editor probably only cost about $1 less per page, $1 or $2 less per page. You can get a Fresh Eyes edit, fairly inexpensive because they're operating under the assumption that 2 or 3 editors have already seen this manuscript. It's going to be pretty much polished. I'm not, going to be, it's not like it's a first draft. So, but one of our clients, she decided to forego the proof editor. And some things got shifted around, with the typesetting. And I think she was running on a deadline. I don't know if she really proofed it. She said she had a couple of people proof it, but we did end up finding like about 5 errors after it went to print. And she came back and she told me, you should make this mandatory. You should make it mandatory that we have to purchase this. She's like, because by that point, we've invested so much in the writing process. We've invested so much in the publishing process. We don't want to spend that extra $2 for 300. But no, we don't want to do it. But she said, you should make it mandatory. We've not yet made it mandatory, but we do still strongly advise. And what I want you guys to know is you don't have to have all the money right now. Save it. Put your editor on layaway. No, seriously. Seriously, I grew up in an era where my mama loved layaway. Now, there was some times when once we saw it go into layaway, me and my sister would just be like, bye. We knew we were never going to see it again. Columbus, Ohio, Schottenstein's, layaway. Bye. Don't see that stuff again. But this is your dream. This is your vision. This is your goal. This is your book, baby. Save up for it, but don't altogether forego the editing process, okay? Save up for it. Work with your editor. Get the payment situated. Pay if you're afraid you can't save it, that you'll spend it. Just, pay the editor. Let them at least get a round in. And that's another question you want to ask your editor. How many rounds of editing do you do? At Path to Publishing, our content development editor is the first person who's going to see that manuscript. They will do 3 rounds of edits. Okay, they will do 3 rounds. That's back and forth with the author, which is why I always tell authors, please don't plan your launch party. Please don't plan your book release party. Please don't go pay for that venue. Please don't set the date. Please don't go get those invites printed up without knowing the length, the process, how long it's going to take for the editing. For your standard size book, it's 280 pages. What is that, about 80,000 words? We're looking at 3 to 6 months. Because remember, this is just the content editor's going to go through it 3 times. Then we have to give it back to the author. So the author's going through it those 3 times. And then we're going through the copy editing phase, and then the typesetting, and then the proof editing. Give yourself 3 to 6 months. Give yourself 3 to 6 months. And if you can plan that big release party, if you can go rent that venue and you can go buy those invitations, you can pay for an editor. If you're going to scale down anything, scale down that launch party, but don't trim. Don't trim down on the editing process. Scale down the launch. See, that's ego. That launch, that's ego. Let's just admit it. We're literary entertainers. We're literary artists. There's some ego in there. That big launch, when you're putting that before making sure the book is done in excellence, that becomes ego. But I'm telling you that, and that ties in with literary success, because literary success typically has to do with winning awards, things of that nature, winning contests and fellowships and having best-selling author. That tends to fall under literary success. But there's there's financial literary success, okay? Financial literary success. And I define it clearly right in my book. Act like an author, think like a business, ways to achieve financial literary success. This is actually a companion of the conference. And the conference doubles as a DIY MBA in publishing program. So this is a required text. This is one of the required texts. There's only 2 required texts right now for the MBA in publishing program, and that's my book, Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business, Ways to Achieve Financial Literary Success. And then we have our grant expert, Stephanie Bridges. Her book is a required read as well. Why? Because it helps you get the money to publish your book. It's about grants and fellowships and other funding. And let me tell you, there's nothing like having dreams, visions, and goals and then building them with other people's money. That's why in the Literary Blueprint, we talk about that pre-order campaign. We talk about selling your book before it's even written. Okay? Getting the money up front to help you pay for your editing. But don't skip on that editing process. Even if you are working with a traditional a traditional publisher, please get your book as polished as possible before you turn it over. Before you turn it over, make sure you are giving your best. Because I've worked with authors who they'll turn in what looks like a first draft. The publishing company has editors. I'm not going to work with an editor. I'm not going to pay an editor. I'm not going to spend time reading this 4 or 5 times. The publishing company has an editor. But you call it your baby? You're calling it your baby, but you're ready to just fling it. No, the editing process is so detrimental to the success of your book. I always say a lot. But I have this saying that, again, if you can't afford to edit your book, you can't afford to publish your book. Because if you choose not to use money for an editor, in the end, you'll pay. In the end, you will pay. And there's nothing worse than you sharing that story, sharing what's inside of you, wanting to deliver that message and help people, but the message didn't come across as clear as it should have because you skipped a process that could have helped you publish in excellence, that could have helped you polish and tighten that message that you were trying to share with the world, okay? So I've gone over the types of editors. I'm going to go over just one more piece. And this is not, I got way more that I teach at the conference. This is just, little bits and pieces because editing is so important. And I just don't want my fellow authors, my fellow writers, those of you who have a message to share, because again, you don't have to be a writer to be the author of your own story, but I want you to get it right. Okay, I want you to get this thing right. And there are resources out here that can help you get it right. But you don't know what you don't know, which is why I have this conference every year so that I can teach you what you don't know. Okay, when you're doing your due diligence with finding an editor, you want to ask them what style guide do they operate under? Okay, so what style guide do they work with? For the most part, your traditional publishers, especially when it comes to fiction, they are going to work with the Chicago Manual of Style. And again, everything I'm telling you when you attend the conference, or even if you decide to buy the Literary Blueprint, all of the links are there. So you don't have to go Googling. There's nothing worse than having your Google search intercepted by some slimy literary shark who wants to charge you 4 times of something you could either do for yourself, or you could go to an honest self-publishing assistance company to help you. And Path to Publishing isn't just for self-published authors. We work with traditionally published authors. We are about making sure that you know what that traditional publisher should be doing for you. Because you don't know what you're not getting if you don't know what you should be getting. So whether you are traditionally published, whether you have agent representation, your book is your business. It's your job to know your business. It's your job to know what your book should be receiving, what you should be receiving as an author from your publisher. Your book is your business. You have to mind your business. And that's what the conference is about. We're teaching you how to mind your business, regardless of which path to publication you have taken or choose to take. It's your business. Act like an author. Think like a business. Okay? So you have the Modern Language Association, which is the MLA, and that's more for academic writing. And a great deal of Path to Publishing clients, they write a material that they didn't even initially see as being something they could get into schools and universities. And we've shared with them the different platforms for, like Amazon has their Ignite platform for pre-K through 12th grade curriculum. And in the book Bible, we share so many resources where you should be selling your academic type intellectual property, because that's what this is about. This is our intellectual property. So no, the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference is not set it up for pitch sessions for you to just sign up with an agent or a publishing house and pitch your intellectual property. You need to know the value of your intellectual property first. You need to know what you deserve for that intellectual property. You need to know the different rights you have. So we're not going to put you in front of agents or anyone else for that matter to just give away, pitch away your intellectual property without teaching you the value of it first, without teaching you different multiple streams of income that you can use, that you can form with your intellectual property. Okay, Path to Publishing is a trade name of End of the Rainbow Projects. End of the Rainbow Projects, that's the company I started to help writers, to help people who had a story to tell. And this December will be our 20th year in business. 20 years in business, okay? 20 years. And I'm excited to celebrate that at the 2020 conference this year. So if I know I keep talking about the conference, but there's a link underneath the title of this video. You can learn more about the conference. You can register for the conference. And let me take this moment to apologize that we didn't realize for the last 3 weeks the payment option plans were no longer on the website. When we took down the early bird registration special, we accidentally took down the payment plan options. So you do not have to pay for the conference in full. There are payment plans, okay? You can make deposits and you can pay over months. The conference isn't until September 17th, 18th, and 19th. So you have quite a bit of time to get this paid, okay? You have quite a bit of time to get that information that's going to accelerate your literary career, that is going to catapult your literary career, that is going to help you build it, help you grow it, okay? So no excuses. You have to invest in you. I know that there's conferences all over the map, and most of them, when it comes to writers, it's geared toward writing, again, the process of writing. But what you have to know is that the publishing process is just as important as the writing process. As a matter of fact, the publishing process is the return on the investment of your writing process. And then there's the conferences that are geared more toward readers' experience. It's the reader's experience. It's where, it's book fairs and festivals and things of that nature. My fellow literary colleagues and literary artists, you have to invest in a conference that is going to teach you this business. Because I see so many of you making your book your entire business. Your book should never be your entire business. You should never just be focused on book sales and royalties. Yes, our readers are our literary heartbeats. Going to these events and meeting them. There's nothing like it. My readers, my hashtag boss readers, they are the wind beneath my literary wings. Again, they are my literary heartbeat. But I'm my literary brain. I need to know how this business is running. I'm the brain of this empire. Okay, so it can't always be about going to the reader's experiences and selling books, and you're focused on book sales and royalties. At this conference, it's not one book at a time, it's selling bookcases at a time. Learn how to sell cases at a time to organizations, to nonprofits, to companies. Okay, learn the business side of it. The selling the book one book at a time, and you'll even sell out of books, and that's great. I see it all the time. I sold out of books. I sold out of books. But when you think about it, if you've traveled, okay, you've paid for transportation, you've paid for lodging, you've probably paid a vendor's fee, you're paying for food. Even if you sell out of books, you have not covered those expenses. And I know it's not always about getting money. It's about getting readers. It's about getting clients. It's about getting customers. But everything should make sense and sense. Even if it's not in the tangible dollars, again, even if it's not getting money, but getting an audience, but getting customers, but it has to make sense, okay? And it just can't be one book at a time, one book at a time, one book at a time, when you could be selling cases at a time. After our first conference, it blessed me so much when one of our attendees, Monique Chandler, gave me her praise reports like, Joy, I sold 300 books. And then I had another person tell me, I've been invited to so-and-so's conference. And not only that, they're purchasing a copy so that each person who comes, they will get a copy of my book in their registration bag. We teach you this. One book at a time is good. One book at a time is good. But cases at a time is great. It allows you to make an impact. It allows you to reach more. It allows you to reach more. Okay? Passion is great. Passion is great. Getting that story out, telling that story, writing. This can be our passion. It can be our love. It can be our ministry. But selling the book is a business. And putting knowledge and education, it allows you to make an impact. It allows you to make an impact, to create a movement. Okay? So, and we have fun, but the Pathfinders, when we come to this conference, we're ready to learn. The Pathfinders come intentional. They come with intention. They come to learn. They are done with the whole Hansel and Gretel thing. And I say that because, the whole success leaves crumbs. Success leaves crumbs. And, the freebies, the free webinar, the cheat course, the this, the that, just trying to grab crumbs when at the conference, at the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference, it's an entire loaf of bread. It's the entire loaf of bread. You don't have to be gathering crumbs, crawling around gathering crumbs. The entire loaf of bread is there, but you have to invest in you. You have to invest in you. If you want people to invest in you, if you want other people to invest in you, your book business, your message, your programs, you have to invest in you. You. Okay? So, the American Psychological Association, that's APA. I'm back. I told y'all I always bring it back. And that's typically for newspaper and magazine articles. So you have your major style players. That's the Modern Language Association, MLA. That's more so academic writing. The American Psychological Association, APA, editing of newspapers, magazines, journals, things of that nature. And then the Chicago Manual of Style. Like I said, that style is often used by traditional publishers. So that's it for today. I mean, you can come to the conference and get way more. I mean, I just spent this time teaching you from 3 slides. That was 3 slides. And that's why I love the conference, because I really get people, to really thinking about this as something more than just writing a book, publishing a book, selling a book. And so many people They continue to work with me after the conference. I work with them as their literary consultant. We'll do group coaching. And then we have the private Path to Publishing Facebook group. So I'm in there. I'm the admin. So I tell the individuals I work with, I tell the people who register for the conference, just because your check clears doesn't mean I'm in the clear. Okay? Let's get that straight. Just because your check clears doesn't mean I'm in the clear. This curriculum that I keep talking about and calling the Business Book Bible, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And what makes it phenomenal is that it works. Everything in here works. I'm a literary expert. And when you come to that conference, you work with a team of experts. Like I said, this doubles as an MBA in publishing program. So you're not getting a bunch of speakers to come talk for 45 minutes. You're getting 90-minute lessons. You are getting schooled. You're going to learn today. You are getting educated, okay, with these experts. And remember, experts don't think. Experts don't feel. Experts don't hope. Experts don't believe. Experts know. And I know this curriculum works when you work it. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. Do you have to do everything? No. Eventually you may. But those things that lines up with your dreams, your vision, your goals, and that's something that I learned at Pop-Up Publishing School. That's the first thing I work with people on. You know, at Pop-Up Publishing School, I'm teaching of the different aspects of the publishing process, but we get to the grit of this. We get to the root, and, you know, if maybe you can make it to one of my Pop-Up Publishing Schools in your neck of the woods when I come to your neck of the woods, but I do it 2 to 3 times a month here in Vegas. I do a Pop-Up Publishing School. But I'll also be doing it across the map as well. Or if you're having a conference or function and you want to bring me in to do my Pop-Up Publishing School piece, that's awesome as well. But I go over the why. And I know that sounds cliche-ish. What's your why? What's your why? What's your why? But the publishing process is work. It's work. It is work. And when it gets hard, and when it gets tough, and when you want to give up, you have nothing but that why to keep you going. And there's there's levels of the why that we do. And again, I'm just focusing on editing here. But we're going to do it this year at the conference. It's a new piece I've added to the conference. When we open, we're going to do this exercise. Because when it gets hard, not while at the conference, but when you're back at home implementing and executing what you've learned, I need you to go back to the why. Because that's the only thing that's going to keep you moving. That's the only thing that's going to keep you from throwing in your towel, from throwing in your pen. Okay? That's it. But you have to do the work. Nothing you receive at this conference by watching me, by signing up to my newsletter, by being in the group, by, liking the information, liking the tips, liking the resources. Liking it is not work. You have to do the work. You have to go to the next level. When I share tips and information and links, you got to click. You got to go to work. Chrysler has a saying, well, the Bible even says that you don't work, you don't eat. But Chrysler says, all good things to those who work. I say you get what you work for. And so you have to be willing to do the work. It doesn't matter how great or phenomenal I say this is. It doesn't matter. It's not going to work if you don't work it. It's the results that matter. It's the results. So me sitting here saying, oh, and this content, it's the best content ever. And, it's great. It's phenomenal. It's 22 years worth of information. That means nothing. It's the results that matter. And if you don't work, you don't get the results that I know, because I'm an expert, so I know. And I don't do that little watered down cop-out thing. Well, this worked for me. It may not work for you. It may not work for you. Well, it may work for some, but it may not work for others. Let me tell you this. If I'm cutting a check to you, it better work. It better work. So beware. If someone's trying to get you to work with them, come to their event, conference, buy their program, package, service, and you hear, well, it may not work for some. It will work for others. It worked for me. It may not work for you. Reconsider. Because as an expert and someone who wants you to write a check saying it may or may not work, it better work. And what I know is the information you learn at the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference works. And that's why we have our tribe, our Pathfinder community, because we work together to work it. We are a team. There's so many people in the room, we do the same thing, okay? There's other literary consultants, there's other publishing coaches, there's publishers in the room, authors, agents, editors, business owners running the same business. There's so many of us in the room, we do the same thing, but we are not there to compete. We are there to connect, to collaborate, and to complement one another. We move as a team. And it doesn't matter if you're the best player on the team, okay? It's the championship game. You're killing it. You breaking records. You're slaying, hitting those three-pointers, not missing the shot. You're the best player on the team. The final game, the buzzer rings, but we still lose. The entire team has to win. The entire team. The entire team. Just because you were the best player and broke records, you don't get a ring. No, nobody gets a ring. We all have to win. We all have to win. So you can be the best. You can be the best, okay? But let me tell you this, and you probably very well are the best. But what I've learned is that individually we make a difference. Together we make a move, we make an impact, but working together we make a movement, okay? Individually, doing what we do, we make a difference. When we come together, we make an impact. But when we move together, work together, collaborate and connect, man, we are a movement, a literary force to be reckoned with. And that's what Pathfinders are. That's what the attendees at the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business conference are. We are Pathfinders. We are a movement. So you can join the movement or you can watch how we move. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I urge you and I encourage you to click the link underneath the title of this video. Register for the Act Like an Author, Think Like a Business 2020 conference taking place September 17th, 18th, 19th here in the still fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I hope to see you in Vegas.